But Klisman, coming to you now, Pratikrit was mentioning, and this has been a talk since this tariff threat happened, that it's not just the other countries and the rest of the world that is dependent on America. America is also dependent on other countries. And, in these potential retaliatory tariffs that countries might be now putting on US, there are concerns of, say, farmers who saw something like that in Trump 1.0 as well, where the government had to spend billions to compensate because exports went down. There were sort of retaliatory tariffs that time as well. So it's not as if the American citizens will not be impacted. In fact, a lot of people say that inflation will go up and Americans will have to shell out more for their basic essentials.
Well, there's naturally a fog of war when it comes time to these tariffs, because it depends on how, as rightly you say, how countries respond to these tariffs. They could be like a Venezuela, who say we won't respond, but then agree to exactly what the United States wanted. We can have a situation like Mexico, where they agree last minute to pause the tariffs for a month. We can have a situation like Canada, which they want to boldly, go tit for tat. We'll see where that goes. But I think because the United States, it has a trade deficit, meaning it buys much more from the world than it sells, it's in a position of power because all these countries and all these companies that sell into the United States want to continue to do this. And also what's very important to realize is that it's not going to be government policy that decides whether these tariffs work. It's going to be what businesses decide to do as a result. So if a business sees itself in a position where it has to reduce prices so that its end consumer doesn't get hit with higher inflation, then it may need to do that. Or they may see more beneficial to move its operations into the United States. How difficult or how easy that is really dependent. A farmer, for example, can't just get up and move its farm into rural Missouri, for example. But other kinds of technologies may be able to do that. So what we may see is for industries which aren't as mobile, we will see them hurt. But for industries which are more mobile, technology, manufacturing, other kinds of things like this, they may have the agility to actually move their operations into the United States, which will again allow them to not be hit by these tariffs. But this is a very complex picture. But what's clear is that the United States under Trump wants to reduce its trade deficit and wants to be in a trade surplus. That's going to take a long time, and it's going to take, I think, a lot of pain, especially if other countries decide to hit it with tit-for-tat tariffs at the same time.
And therefore, Klisman, let me understand this from you then. Shouldn't this be a big concern? Therefore, you mentioned businesses and how they respond to this. Shouldn't this be a big concern then, how local businesses will perhaps, delay their decision making and therefore lead to slower economic growth, because they will be very wary of the kind of private investments that lack of animal spirit, as we call it in the private investment, that will come to the fore and that will sort of impact the economic growth?
Well, what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to make it easier and cheaper for the U.S. consumer to buy, which means now with the United States wanting to drill, baby drill, as Trump says, he wants to make energy prices cheaper, which makes people have more money in their pockets to spend on goods and services. So although prices may increase because of these tariffs, hopefully the United States consumer will have more money in their pocket because the cost of living will go down, which will balance it out. Also, if these tariffs do actually work, and companies do decide to bring manufacturing in-house, then the arbitrage will be a lot more, which means more money in the pockets of American consumers, being able to purchase more products and services based in America, which will also increase the employment in manufacturing in the United States. We've seen over the last 20 years, if not longer, the manufacturing sector across all industries just being decimated in the United States. So what Trump wants to do is to increase employment, because these companies are going to hire American workers, which will have a positive net effect to the American economy. That's the plan, at least.